Hey everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. And even though we are approaching the end of January 2025, I still want to take one last look back at 2024 and go over 24 of my favorite things from last year. Now, I've divided these into 4 different categories, and I'll go over my top 6 from each of those 4 categories. 4 times 6 is 24, hence my 24 for 2024. So we will look at my top 6 Steelbooks, my top 6 physical media finds, my top 6 first-time watches, and my top 6 Steelbooks that I picked up from 2024. So lots to go over today, so let's not waste any more time at all. Let's dive right in to my 24 favorites of 2024. For no particular reason whatsoever, I guess I'll start with my top 6 Steelbooks that I picked up last year. Now, all 6 of these are going to be Steelbooks that were released in 2024, and of course, I ended up buying them last year. So we'll start off at number 6 and work up to number 1 for all 4 of these categories, but to be honest, I don't know necessarily why I put, especially with the Steelbooks, why I put one over the other, but it just is what it is. I liked all 6 of these, so, don't think number 6 is that much lesser than number 1, for example. But anyway, let's get onto it here. So coming in at number 6 is going to be the Steelbook release of Transformers 1. So this is one that I actually talked about in my upcoming releases, my anticipated releases video, because it was one I had pre-ordered. However, I ended up canceling the pre-order before it ended up releasing, and then about a week or 2 later, I regretted it and thought, I love that Steelbook. I really want it before it, becomes no longer available. That hasn't happened. I think it is still available, but I had to grab it. So let's take a look here. So you can see I still have the J card attached, so I will try to leave that on, but there's the back of this one. And keep in mind, I am simply talking about the aesthetics here, the actual Steelbook itself. Actually, I am going to have to take this off. Let me get the J card off of here without messing it up. There we go. So there is the front of it there. And actually, I did get a new one. I showed this in a haul video, and the one I opened on camera was dented and messed up. So I did get a new one, and this one is in great shape. So there is the outside of this. And then let me get the discs and everything out of here. Actually, you know what? This is a good time. Let me give away the digital code for Transformers 1. Hopefully that'll zoom in and you guys can take advantage of that. Good luck. Hopefully somebody gets that one. I think it's available streaming, but hey, always better to have it in this form than streaming. So there we go. There is the inside of this one. I just think this looks awesome. It's just such a nice looking Steelbook. So that's why this one ended up at number 6. The discs themselves, I'll show them in a second. There is the Blu-ray. Nothing really to write home about, because then the 4K disc itself is just black. So nothing great on the discs, but everything else in this looks fantastic. So hopefully somebody gets that Transformers 1 digital code. And number 6 today for my favorite Steelbook of 2024 is going to be Transformers 1. So I'm looking through the rest of my Steelbooks here, and they're actually all horror movies. Well, horror or horror adjacent. I don't know if you call number 1 a horror movie, more of an action film. But anyway, this one at number 5 is definitely a horror movie. This is A Nightmare on Elm Street. So just the fact that we are finally getting this one on 4K was awesome. But then this Steelbook, which obviously is the route I decided to go, I thought looked really cool. It's like that old school, almost clamshell VHS style on the outside, which just looks awesome. So I love that about it. And then on the inside there, you can see the disc. Again, nothing great on the disc, but that's all right. You have that on the inside. So definitely this side is better than this side, but at least it forms one picture. Really for me though, this is all about the outside. I just think it looks awesome. And you can't tell this on video, of course, but it's a matte finish, which I think works really well for something like this. I don't know why, but it feels different. It just feels better to me. I don't know. I like that a lot on this. Don't have to worry about fingerprints nearly as much either, which is always cool. So yeah, great release here. I loved this Steelbook. So number 5 is going to be A Nightmare on Elm Street. Number 4 is one that I picked up later than I normally would have also. I didn't pick it up on release. I sold my standard version of this because Walmart had this. I think it was a Walmart exclusive Steelbook, but this is Saw X. Saw 10, what are people saying? I still don't know. But anyway, Saw X, and this one is great. So there is the front and the back. And what I love about this is it's like is this a Lionsgate release? It is one of theirs. And so you know it's going to be great because it has this slip cover with it, which is just awesome. I love that. It looks so cool. So there is the front of that one there, which looks fantastic with all the bodies, and the back with the X, which looks really cool, and the complete wraparound there. I guess it's not really a wraparound, but there's the front and the back. And then on the inside, so both discs look like this eyeball, which actually you kind of have to have them in there for it to make sense, because this, of course, is part of the eyeball. So that looks awesome. Let me just take the discs out just so you guys can see every part of it here. And you can see them right there too. There's the eyeballs. So yeah, just a cool release. I think this one looks so nice. I love it. Obviously, I pretty much have the same thing to say about all 6 of these. But anyway, number 4 is going to be Saw 10 or Saw X. Let me know how you say it down in the comments below. Surprisingly, that's the only Lionsgate Steelbook that I have in my top 6 this year. Frankly, I didn't buy that many ever since Best Buy stopped doing them. They're just more expensive, and they're only like at Walmart, or the easiest place to get them is at least at Walmart, and I just haven't been buying them. So that's the only one from Lionsgate. But anyway, speaking of Walmart exclusives, here we have Lair of the White Worm. So this is awesome. I just pulled the little J card off of here, so that's what that sticker residue is on there. I'll keep it there because I want to keep it with it when I put it into its case. But anyway, this thing just looks awesome. So this one I think has more of a wraparound feel to it, as you can see the front and the back there. So this, of course, is a Vestron video release, and it was one I didn't have in the collection, which is why I ended up grabbing the Steelbook release of this on Blu-ray. Actually, the only Blu-ray Steelbook I'm talking about today also, but had to grab it because I didn't already own it, and the disc actually looks good on this one, which is cool. And then there is the full inside. We have the original poster artwork there, plus some new design on the disc side as well. So this thing looks awesome. I actually haven't even watched this one yet. I do need to get around to this, but just such a cool Steelbook, so I had to talk about it in this video. So number 3 is the Lair of the White Worm, and you'll see maybe a theme here on what I love in my Steelbooks as we go through these top 3. So number 1 and number 2 are both from the same company, and you probably can guess what it is because they have been killing it in the Steelbook game this year. But I've decided to go with this one at number 2. We have Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This is just one of the most beautiful Steelbooks in my collection, let alone as simply just a release from last year. There is the front and the back, and it is just gorgeous looking. So you can actually see the discs do have some artwork on it. So the front one there is the 4K disc. And then there is the Blu-ray disc, which actually I think the Blu-ray looks nicer than the 4K disc, but there is the inside of that one. Like, this is just such a beautiful set from them. I have a number of the Steelbooks from Scream Factory, and they all just look awesome. They're, I mean, frankly, just some of my favorites in my collection overall, which is why you'll see number 1 here in a second. But had to give this one its respect because it looks beautiful. We have Killer Clowns from Outer Space from Scream Factory. And if you've been following the physical media world this year, you probably have a good idea what number 1 is, especially because I already told you it's part of the Scream Factory releases. But this Steelbook, it's, like I said, probably my favorite in my collection right now. This is Escape from New York from Scream Factory. And the style on this one is just tops in my book. I love everything about the aesthetics of this release. It is so beautiful. And then on the inside, this is actually a 3-disc set. So you can see both the 4K, I think there's a Blu-ray special features disc in there as well. But let's get all 3 of these discs out of the way here so you can take a look at the inside, which again, for my money, the outside is really where it shines, but the inside is great on this one as well. Just some classic imagery from this movie. So love this release. Not my favorite movie from John Carpenter, but I like it, and I only had it, I think, on... Maybe I didn't even own it. Or maybe actually, you know, I think I said that when I picked this one up. I thought I didn't own it, but it turns out I did have the Blu-ray release of this one. But that's all right. I was still happy to upgrade this to 4K because specifically, this Steelbook is amazing. So that's why Escape from New York with its beautiful Steelbook is coming in as my favorite Steelbook release of 2024. I think I'll stick with the physical media idea here and go with my favorite physical media finds of last year. So these are 6 that were not released in 2024. Actually, I don't think any of these were released last year, but I happened to come across them last year, and I think I grabbed all of these used, and all but one of the top 6 were things I found in person. I do have a Whatnot haul in here also, but yeah, excited to get through these. So let's start off with my number 6 favorite physical media find of 2024. And this one is actually going to be a DVD find. This is Batman Begins, the 2-disc deluxe edition. So I'll have 2 things to talk about here when I'll blame Neil from Neil's Movie Channel on both of them. But this is the first one. He talked about this, and I want to say I don't think it was a haul video. I think it was like his complete collection video. And what's special about this, so it comes with this really nice slip cover, but what's really cool about it is this guy right here. It comes with this awesome graphic novel. Like, this is just so cool. So you can see on the inside here, just looking at some of the artwork, like, this is just such a cool thing. And what a DVD thing to do. Like the golden era of physical media releases, I feel like, with, and I love this too. It has like a correction sheet with it for some of the credits on here for the comic book. Like, just a cool release. And so he talked about it in his video, and I added it to my list, figuring I would have to go to eBay to actually find this thing, but nope, I was actually able to get it right from Disc Replay not that long after. So here is the inside as well. Nothing special with this, but figured I would show it off as I'm talking through it here. So that's, such a cool find. And the fact that I found it, I mean, a week, 2 weeks after he talked about it, and that was the first time I ever even knew that it existed. It was after he was talking about it. The fact that I was able to find it in person is just awesome. So that's why this makes my top 6 favorite physical media finds from 2024. This is the Batman Begins 2-disc deluxe edition with the graphic novel included. So there are actually 2 items in my top 6 that I'm so far behind on sharing with you guys my physical media finds that I haven't even showed this off yet in a haul video, but I'm going to put this one at number 5, and it is the only Laserdisc in my collection, but I found this from my local used record shop. They have a media section. Alien 3 on Laserdisc. Had to grab this one. It was cheap. It was only like $6. And just given the artwork on this, I wanted it in the collection. So there's the back side of it as well. Now, everything I'm reading about this, I don't think this is a better release than even the DVD at the time. But I just wanted it for the aesthetics. Like, I don't have a Laserdisc player. I would love to get one, but that's a whole nother can of worms I'm just not sure I'm ready to open yet. But I had to grab this one. This is such a cool find in person. Let me show the inside as well. If you don't know what a Laserdisc is, but I'm guessing, you know, we all do if you're watching this. But you can see it looks like a big giant record, but in CD form almost. And so it's just really cool. So again, don't think this is a great Laserdisc release or anything like that, but because I had none in my collection, and it was one of the few horror movie related ones, and it's from one of my all-time favorite franchises, the favorite IPs, the Alien series, so had to grab this one. It was just so cool and very cheap for what it was. So if I'm wrong, and this is actually a wonderful release, obviously, I feel like the reason people buy Laserdisc today is because they often have the best audio options available. And so if this is the one that has the best audio option, let me know. But I really don't think it is based on what I was reading about it. So just cool to have in the collection. And one, like I said, I haven't even shared this with you guys yet. So I will probably still put it back over there to show everybody else because I know most people just watch my haul videos. But yeah, very happy to have this one in the collection. My only Laserdisc, a find from my local record shop. Coming in at number 5, Alien 3 Laserdisc release. Number 4 today is going to be one that I shared not too long ago, and I still have to dive into this, but just the fact I was able to find this at my local Disc Replay in person, that's why it makes the list. Falling Skies, the complete series on Blu-ray. Now, I don't think that this is necessarily super rare or anything like that, but just the fact I was able to come across this in person was awesome to me. So I was very happy to add this to the collection. I've still yet to start watching this, but we've actually just been watching Squid Game finally after all these years. We just finished season 1, so my wife and I will be moving on to season 2, but I would like to get to this at some point soon here in 2025 because it just feels like a series that's right up my alley. So the fact I was able to get the entire series for, I think, under $20 at my local disc replay, I had to grab it, and I'm very happy to have it in the collection. So this here, number 4, is Falling Skies on Blu-ray, the complete series. Number 3 is the other one I can blame on Neil over at Neil's Movie Channel, one that he showed off in his collection video, and I, again, never even heard of it until he shared it in his video. And then, at my local disc replay, days later, literally days later, I happened to stumble across it. It was somebody had just returned it. It was still sitting on the cart, ready to go out, and it was $3.99. Ridiculously cheap for what this is, because this goes for a pretty decent penny online. We have Marilyn, the Premiere Collection. So this is a whole bunch, how many? 17 different Marilyn Monroe films. Another one I haven't even shared with you guys yet. That's how long I've had this sitting here. But yeah, just one that I really just need to dive into because I haven't done that yet. But this is so cool. So I won't necessarily go through the entire thing, but they look like magazine covers, almost like Vogue covers. So that's awesome. And then you can see on the inside here, there's all the discs. This is DVD release also. And then on the outside, there's a full shot of Marilyn herself. This is just really cool. And there's so many movies in here, as I'll continue to show these as I talk through them. But here's an iconic image, right? Everybody knows that image of Marilyn Monroe. That's just so awesome. So yeah, I had to grab this one. Like I said, maybe I can put up a comp. When I picked it up, it was going for, I want to say closer to $30 online. I considered, do I trade this off and get something different? But no, absolutely not. When I went through this and looked at it, I was like, yeah, this needs to be in the collection. This is just too cool. So many great movies in here to watch that I have got to get started on at some point soon. But I just thought this was such a cool find. Again, literally days after learning about it for the first time, and have never seen this in person before that or after. So very happy I was able to find Marilyn, the Premiere Collection on DVD. So number 2 is the only online purchase I made that I'm talking about in my top 6 here, but I couldn't not have this be a part of my top 6 because I think this is just awesome. I happened to stumble on a Whatnot auction that was selling a bunch of the Children of the Corn tapes on VHS, or the Children of the Corn movies on VHS. And I let the first one go by mistake, but I was able to get the rest of the series. So then I went online and grabbed the rest that I needed. I think I needed number 1 and number 2 or 3 or something that I picked up off of eBay. So that's why this is going to be my favorite, second favorite physical media find. So here is the original Children of the Corn. This one I think is probably in the worst shape out of the bunch, but still happy to have it in the collection on VHS. And then we have Children of the Corn 2. This was the one that I picked up on eBay. Now I'm remembering as I'm looking at it. So not part of the Whatnot haul, but everything else was Whatnot. But I feel like number 1 I got from maybe a different sale or a different day or something. And then the rest I got all at once. But here's Children of the Corn 3. This one does have the sticker on the back, but that's all right. Little old school style. Here is number 4, Children of the Corn 4, The Gathering. And then we have number 5 with Fields of Terror. I know her, but I can't think of her name, but very familiar face. And then we have 666, Isaac's Return. Such a cool release. And then the Revelation, number 7. And frankly, I think this is the one that I actually liked a lot compared to a lot of these sequels, because frankly, the sequels are just not good. I don't even love the original, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think it's that great of a movie. Has one of the best openings ever. But then from there, it just kind of goes downhill. And the rest of the series kind of follows suit. But this one, if I'm not mistaken, it was this one or 666, one of these two, I actually really loved. And I think it was this one here. It's just a better movie than the rest of them. So yeah, I had to grab all these and talk about them in this video because I'm still just so tickled to have all of these in the collection on VHS. So number 2, kind of a ridiculous one. Frankly, totally superfluous. I have them all on DVD as well, but happy to have them on VHS in the collection. The Children of the Corn series from eBay and Whatnot. And then last but not least is one I talked about in either a shelf space episode or something. I talked about it already in a review, but the fact that I was able to find this It Follows like deluxe edition from Disc Replay for under $30 is just insane to me. I actually picked up the 4K of this, the standard edition, earlier in 2024, like in January, and then I hadn't opened it, I hadn't watched it again, but then later in the year, I don't know, sometime in the summer, I stumbled on this one. Well, I was able to sell my new copy of It Follows on 4K and pick this one up, and I actually ended up making a couple bucks, I think, at the end of the day. So just a really good deal on this one, and just a excellent film. Like I said, my full thoughts on this one are here on the channel, but I have to show this release a little bit. So it comes in the hard box, and then we have this booklet, which is just insane. It is so big and nice. It reminds me a lot of I just unboxed like the Terrifier collection. So this is a second site release, I should mention. The Terrifier, of course, is from Umbrella, but there is the table of contents. But this is so very similar in terms of quality to that release, and so it makes me think about it. But here's postcards. I'm not going to take all of those out. And then you have the release itself. It is a UK release, I should mention, but the 4K, of course, is going to be region free, so no issues there. The Blu-ray is a region B Blu-ray, so if you don't have a region free player or a 4K player, obviously not a release that you're going to be interested in. But for me, who is region free, and then of course I'm watching the 4K anyway, so happy to find this one. This was, without a doubt, my favorite physical media in-person find of last year. Love the movie, and it's really what prompted me to rewatch it, and I loved it even more the second time through. Just an excellent horror film. So the second sight deluxe edition 4K release of It Follows ranks as my favorite physical media find of 2024. Now let's talk about my favorite 4K releases of 2024. So these are my overall favorite releases in terms of the transfer quality, the special features, all of that. These were the ones I put at the top of my list. Now, you're probably going to wonder, why isn't X, Y, and Z there? And frankly, it's probably because I just haven't watched it yet or haven't consumed the entire disc yet. Whatever the situation is, I buy way more than in a month than I can watch in a month, of course. That's just what at least that's what I do as a collector. I'm not sure not everybody does that, but that's what I do. And so I couldn't get through everything I wanted to last year, but so keep this, take this top 6 with a grain of salt. These are just the ones out of the ones I've watched that I thought were the top releases. So not trying to be an authoritative figure in terms of the best of last year, just giving my thoughts on my personal favorites that I happen to watch. So coming in at number 6, and I think a lot of these I talked about here on the channel, if not in their own standalone review with a shelf space episode or something similar, but this one I did do a full standalone review on. This is the Ring collection from Scream Factory, and I think this is not the only time you'll see Scream Factory on this list of top 6, but this is the Scream collection, or this is the Ring collection. So we have the Ring 2, and then the later sequel, Rings. Now, don't get me wrong, I talked about it in my full review. I love The Ring. It's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. The Ring 2, don't love it, but I do think I enjoyed it better this time through than I had in the past. And then Rings, I don't think is a great movie at all, but if you're like me and a completionist, it's really cool to have these in a full set like this. But the reason it's here is just because of everything else that's included. Number one, the fact that we have these movies on 4K now is just insane. I love that. Just love having this franchise in the collection on 4K. The special features on this is basically definitive in terms of the other releases. Most everything is here that was on previous releases, not 100%, but most everything. I think there was 1 or 2 things that were not included here. I was able to watch those on YouTube, so, is what it is. But yeah, just an awesome release overall. And again, if you want my full thoughts, check out my full review. But yeah, just happy to have this box set. I think this was a really high quality release from Scream Factory this year, which is why it ends up at number 6 on my list of favorites. We have the Ring collection. Fittingly, number 5 is also Scream Factory, and I think this is the only other Scream Factory release here, and I talked about this one in a shelf space episode, so I didn't dive into the full disc itself, but if you want to hear my thoughts on the full movie, check that out. But this is Doomsday, directed by Neil Marshall. The reason this is on my list is, quite frankly, mostly just because I was shocked that this got a 4K release. This is just, to me, one of those cult movies that not a lot of people know about, but apparently enough do that Scream Factory decided it was worth putting out in a collector's edition release. And this thing is loaded with tons of new special features. The transfer on this looks awesome. I think it looks great. That might be not everybody's opinion, and that's fine, but for my money, I thought it looked really awesome. The fact that you get 3 discs here filled with the different cuts of the film, plus different special features, I think is great as well. So I will mention this is one of those releases, typical of Scream Factory. The theatrical cut is on the 4K disc, and then you get the unrated cut on the Blu-ray. There's actually 2 Blu-rays, one with the unrated and one with the theatrical. So if you want the unrated on 4K, unfortunately, you're not getting that here. Maybe one of the reasons it ended up at number 5 instead of higher, subconsciously, I don't know. But either way, just an awesome movie that, frankly, not enough people talk about. So was very happy to see this one hit 4K, and I think Scream Factory just did a great job with this release. So number 5 today is Doomsday from Scream Factory. Let's move over to Sony for my number 4 today. And of course, this had to be on the list. This is Seinfeld, the complete series on 4K. So this is one that I have been waiting for, and so many Seinfeld fans have been waiting for so long. And I was so excited to hear that this was coming to 4K. Absolutely one I knew I was picking up, and got it day one and started watching it and loved it. I think the transfers on this look great. You get a bunch of special features on here that you had with your DVD releases, and you get the full screen original aspect ratio. And I mention that because there is also a Blu-ray set of this, which obviously is going to be a little bit cheaper, and it comes with 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio, which is what you'd get if you watch it streaming, whereas this one, you're getting 1.33 to 1. So the original aspect ratio, just like the DVD collection that I was trying to complete before this one released. But just an awesome set. I haven't watched through the entirety of this yet, but what I've seen, I have loved. I thought the transfers just look great. So this is one that's just, finally, it's here, and I'm so happy about it. So this one had to make the list. Number 4 is Seinfeld, the complete series, released on 4K by Sony Pictures. So number 3 is where I lose all of my credibility as anyone that talks about 4K discs, because I know this one is super controversial, but for me, I absolutely loved this release. Aliens from Disney Buena Vista, of course, 20th Century Fox down there, but this is one of those James Cameron releases that came out, back in whatever this was, I guess in the summer sometime, but you had True Lies, Aliens, and The Abyss. And I think most people would agree that The Abyss is the best of those releases, with True Lies being the worst, but for me, this is the only one I got, because this is the one I love out of those movies. I've still yet to watch True Lies, and The Abyss, I rewatched that on DVD just to see, do I want to pick this one up? Was I wrong the first time I watched it? Turns out I wasn't wrong. That movie's not very good. I'm sorry. If you love it, that's great. For me, I just don't like that movie that much. But anyway, Aliens, of course, I absolutely adore. And I thought this transfer looked amazing. And I know people are just going to disagree with that, and that is fine. But for my eyes, I loved this. I know it was all Alien hype at the time, because I had just gone to see Alien in theaters, either right around when this released. I don't remember if it was before or after. And so I was just all about Alien at the time. And when I watched this, I thought it was just a great picture quality. So Aliens makes my list, even though it probably won't make many people's list. But for my money, this looked fantastic. So happy to have this one in 4K. And I want the rest of the series now in 4K, but we'll see what happens there. So number 3 for me has to be James Cameron's Aliens. Warner Brothers is going to take my number 2 spot, and this is a beautiful steelbook. Frankly, it could have made my top 6, but it didn't. This is Twister. And really, the reason this one makes my list is simply because of the audio quality on here. I loved the audio mix on this release. It just rocked our house. I remember I totally forgot about this until literally just now, but we were watching this and it was a big Twister scene. It was rocking the house. and then the power went out, and it was just by happenstance, not because of the sound quality on this, obviously, but it was raining outside, and so there was a power outage for whatever reason, and my daughter was flipping out because she was already nervous because of the rumbling of the movie, and then our actual power goes out. It was just perfect timing, but it's just a great release, and the picture quality, I think, is excellent as well. Again, controversial, but just because something looks great to my eyes doesn't mean it has to look great to your eyes. If you thought it was too green, that's fine. I will just respectfully disagree because I thought it looked amazing. And comparing this to the Blu-ray, I will take this 4K transfer any day of the week, even though, again, that's not everyone's opinion, and that's totally fine. So this one, an awesome, fantastic release. If you haven't checked it out, if you have the sound system that can handle that crazy bass and just that I think this had a Dolby Atmos track on it, if I'm not mistaken. It does, yeah. And if you can handle that, or if you have a setup for that, absolutely worth owning. Now, I haven't watched Twisters yet, which I picked that one up as well, but from what I hear, the Atmos track on that is not very good, which is really disappointing to hear because it was excellent on this release here. So for my money, Twister is my second favorite release of 2024 on 4K. And then at number 1, you knew I couldn't get through a favorite 4K releases video without talking about Arrow Video, and they happen to be at my number 1 spot with Friday the 13th. Now, this isn't the best movie of the films I'm talking about today. It's maybe not even the best transfer or anything like that, but I loved this release in full. It made me love this movie, which I liked the movie coming into it, but man, I have such a new respect for it after watching all of the special features on this, and it is just such a great release from Arrow Video. There is the original artwork on the top there as well, but you have physical goodies with this, a postcard, a notebook, or a booklet rather, and then you have the movie itself. And this one just has a bunch of new special features on it that I think are absolutely worth the time if you are a Friday the 13th fan, whether just the remake or the series in general. And I said it at the time that it was my favorite release of the year so far. Well, that maintained. I love this. If you want my full thoughts, I do have a review here on the channel. Look for that if you're interested. But man, Arrow Video knocked it out of the park with this one. This is another one, just shocked to see that Arrow Video was releasing this. And from what I hear, they're actually going to be releasing Jason Goes to Hell, hopefully in 2025. So that's another like must own for me because of the work they've done with this one. So Arrow Video had excellent releases all year, but for my money, my favorite of the ones I've checked out so far has to be Friday the 13th, 2009. Just an awesome release from Arrow Video. Okay, so let's wrap up this long video talking about my top 6 first-time watches of 2024. So just make note, these are going to be 2023 releases and earlier, so nothing from last year. I hope to do a separate video on that, but man, we're getting so late into 2025. I don't know if I'm actually going to do that or not, but hopefully I will in the coming days here. But anyway, coming in at number 6, and I'll mention I do own all of these in the physical format as well. I grabbed all these other things. I didn't grab these, so I think you'll be okay looking at posters for the rest of this video. But coming in at number 6 is going to be From Russia with Love from 1963, directed by Terrence Young. So this is kind of representative of my whole summer of Bond that I did, where I intended to watch more than I did, but I watched the first 3 movies in the James Bond franchise for the very first time, and I loved them. All 3 of them I had such a great time with, but looking back on the 3, the one that really stands out to me the most is From Russia with Love. And I think I did like a vlog on it or whatever, and I think I mentioned that I liked each of them better as the series went on, but for whatever reason, I loved Goldfinger, but for whatever reason, I keep thinking back to From Russia with Love. That's why I'm putting this one in at number 6. Just getting to know this franchise from the beginning has been so much fun, and I absolutely am going to continue that. It's just a matter of time. I would like to continue doing reviews on those as I work through it, which is why I haven't started on the 4th film in the franchise yet, but I will eventually here as the 2025 continues. But I love this movie. I loved all 3 of these movies, but for whatever reason, that's the one that really stands out to me the most. So kind of representative of James Bond, being introduced to him as a whole, comes in at number 6 with From Russia with Love from 1963, directed by Terrence Young. Number 5 for me is going to be another movie I talked about here on the channel in I think it was a Shelf Space episode, but this is from 2007, and it is a horror film called P2. So this one is actually written by Alexander Aja, who is very well known, High Tension, The Hills Have Eyes remake, tons of movies, but this one I thought was really well done. He didn't direct this one. Frank Calhoun, could be butchering that, I apologize, but he did such a great job with this movie. This is the story of a woman who works late one night, it's like Christmas Eve, and she gets locked into her parking garage. Well, there's a security guard there that is trying to help her get out. But is he really? And things kind of take a turn from there. But it's very much Alexander Aja and how it feels. It is very, very bloody and over the top. But it's this one location film, which I love, done so right. Like, it is just such a great movie. I love this, era of horror, because this is really the torture era, and you can feel that in this film. And I grew up on that. And so, of course, I enjoy that. But I thought this was just so much better than I ever expected. I had been wanting to watch this movie for years now, and I finally watched it for the first time in 2024, and I'm so glad I did. It's a great Christmas movie if you want to watch it around that time. Just keep in mind it's very bloody and not for kids. It's very adult in what it's doing, but man, it's so good. And the lead actress is excellent in this as well. Love this movie. Cannot recommend it enough if you are a horror fan and a fan of the torture genre. So have to give this one my number 5 entry. This is P2 from 2007. Number 4 for me is going to be Dune Part 1 from 2021, around to that one. But yeah, this is just such a great setup for the Dune story, and it sparked a whole new love for the franchise. Watching this one about a week before I went to go see the sequel, because my buddy and I were going to go see it in IMAX, and so I had to watch the first one before I did that. So I watched that one here on 4K at home, and it was so good. It just builds this world so well. And even if you haven't read the story, because I hadn't at that point, I have since then. I read Dune, the original book I read after watching Part 2. But even without having that, you don't need to. It's just so well done. It is sci-fi epicness at its best. Overshadowed, oh my gosh, not that I can talk, only overshadowed by Dune Part 2. And oh my god, it's so good though. You obviously have to have Part 1 before you can have Part 2, and everything that's done in Part 1 really sets up for the action and the narrative in Part 2. Cannot recommend this one enough. Believe the hype. This one was built up over the last few years, deservedly so. It is an awesome, awesome movie. If you are a fan of sci-fi, fantasy, action, no reason not to love this one. I know some people don't love the cast, but I thought Timothée Chalamet was great. I love Zendaya as well. Not everybody does, but I think she's a great actress. So for my money, this movie was excellent. I loved this one. So coming in at number 4, we have Dune Part 1 from 2021. Speaking of movies that I watched on 4K before going to see the new sequel in theaters, we have number 3, Deadpool 2 from 2018, directed by David Leitch. So this was one that I'd always heard negative things about over the years, so I was not excited at all to watch this movie, but we were going to see Deadpool and Wolverine, so of course I had to get caught up. I absolutely loved the original Deadpool. That was a 5-star film for me. It was awesome. Deadpool 2, though, like I said, I heard nobody say anything good about this over the years, so my expectations were extremely low, and it blew them out of the water. I thought this was such a hilarious, fun, action-packed, heartfelt movie that I don't know how people hate this movie. It is so much fun for me, to me. And so glad I finally watched this one last year. The acting in this is just excellent across the board. I mean, how do you not love our main characters? They're so good in this movie together. The clan that they put together, I can't think of the name of them, or X-Force, was that right? But I just love that. I would have loved to see that more into the newest one, Deadpool and Wolverine, but unfortunately that's just not the way it goes. But that's another one I'll talk about in my top releases of 2024. But anyway, so glad I finally got around to this one. This is just so much better, I think, than people give it credit for. But I am such a sucker when you put licensed music with action, over-the-top comedy, blood, and just the craziness that goes around with it. That's a movie made for me. And it worked really well. So I adored this film. So coming in at number 3 has to be Deadpool 2 from 2018. So number 1 and number 2 are actually movies I've talked about already here on the channel because both of them were part of my 2024 most embarrassing blind spots list that I did at the beginning of the year. And then of course I did videos throughout the entire year reviewing all of those as I watched through them. But number 2 is going to be War for the Planet of the Apes, coming from 2017, directed by Matt Reeves. This was one that I knew I was going to love it because I am obsessed with the Planet of the Apes series, but for whatever reason, I just never got around to watching War for the Planet of the Apes. But man, the new one, again, coming out in theaters, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and so I really wanted to make sure I was caught up, even though we are starting a new set of movies following different characters and everything, but I had to wrap up Caesar's trilogy, or quadrilogy, whatever it was, I don't remember, but Caesar's story had to get wrapped up for me before I could move on to the next. And so, wow, this one utterly blew me away. Another one. This was at the point where I figured out what I had wrong on my sound system, and I was able to correct that. And then we watched this movie, and it just rocked my house. It is full on a war movie, and your sound system is going to get a workout because of that. But still, at the heart of that, you have our characters that you've grown to love over the years because of the movies that have been done. And so everything about this was damn near perfection for me. I was obsessed from the beginning to the end. I had to know where this thing was going to go. I loved it. This is just my favorite franchise, I think, of all, one of my favorite franchises of all time. Planet of the Apes is amazing. And though Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is a good movie, it's not going to get as good as the Matt Reeves movies until it gets a little bit later on, I don't think, because we don't have that established characters like we do with this set of movies. And so, for my money, this is just one of the best movies I watched this year. It is so good. And if you haven't seen it for whatever reason, watch everything else leading up to it, of course. But boy, oh boy, it is so good. It is just an awesome film. Cannot recommend this enough. So, number 2 for me has to be War for the Planet of the Apes from 2017, directed by Matt Reeves. So you probably guessed what number 1 is if you've been following the channel here for any length of time, and I've already talked about this not too long ago, so I'll be very quick about it, but number 1 for me has to be my last 2024 watch, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from 2019, directed by Quentin Tarantino. You mix Tarantino with true crime and you have an amazing cast. I mean, that's a movie made for me, like I talked about with some of these other ones today. There was virtually no chance I wasn't going to enjoy this, but the amount that I enjoyed this was pretty surprising to me, considering its length. This is a long movie. I think it was over 3 hours, if I'm not mistaken, but it doesn't feel like it at all. It was like the quickest 3+ hours I could have hoped for. The acting in this is excellent. I love the chemistry between our two main characters. It is just pure perfection in my book. Margot Robbie in this is so great as well, even though in reality, she doesn't do all that much in this movie to help drive the plot forward, but just her presence there is so welcome. And she's just such a charming actress, and it works so well for her Sharon Tate role in this movie. I love how things don't go the way you might expect if you are familiar with the Charles Manson story. They don't quite go that way. It's an alternate history story of sorts. And I love that about it. I love how Tarantino holds back on that violence, which he's probably best known for and does best. He holds back on that until the very end when he just lets it go. And it goes bonkers at the end. Like, I love this movie. It is so great, but I'll leave it there because, like I said, I just talked about it. So if you want my full thoughts, check out my latest Correcting My Blind Spots episode. But man, what a great movie. Absolutely one made for me. So my favorite first-time watch of 2024 has to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood from Quentin Tarantino back in 2019. Oh man, that was a long wrap up, a lot longer than I anticipated, but here we are at the end. So thank you guys so much for checking this one out. I would love to hear from you down in the comments below. Don't give me your top 6 necessarily, but what's your favorite first time watch of 2024, your favorite Steelbook release, your favorite 4K release, and your favorite physical media find from last year? Let me know what those 4 favorites are down in the comments. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say, and let me know how much you agree or disagree. Remember, these are just opinions. Mine's not right. Yours isn't wrong. It's just how it is. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And thank you for making it all the way to the end here. If you did, I really do appreciate that. It really helps me out. So thanks so much. But anyway, I will let you guys go. But before I do, I just want to encourage you all to consume some media today. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you all next time.